Hey guys, how you doing? Mr. Antoon here. Hope you're doing well. Today we're going to finish to our last unit, which is Unit 8, Elections and Mass Media. And this would also be a AP College Board's Unit 5. Just to give you a heads up, I break it up a little more. We're going to start off with Chapter 9, Nominations, Campaigns, and Elections, and then finish off with Chapter 7 on the Mass Media. So here we go. So we're probably going to end up going through units or sections 1 through 4 for this. But this is Chapter 9. And there's Obama shaking hands. Trump does the same. Presidents have to get out there and campaign and get to know the people. So the first part is the nomination game. This is a long chapter. Look at that. 8 sections, one of our longest. So the nomination starts with, it's officially the political party's official endorsement for the candidate. And you could see the last time it was really physical in person was in 2016 because of the coronavirus. In 2020 it was virtual. So they had it in Philly and Cleveland. So you pick places that are big cities. That's going to, create some momentum and buzz. And again, you're going to cover you're officially announcing the nomination for president. That's kind of what we're going to use as a backdrop. The success requires so many variables: money, the media, momentum, all via the primary process. So with it, there are 3 parts to it. There is nomination game, which you could see caucus and primary, and then the convention, then the campaign of campaigning through the general election up to it, and then the actual election itself using the Electoral College. So we're going to talk about the race to the White House as our backdrop. So the destination is obviously the White House. And you could see election 2020 sets records. Every time it seems to set records. And we're talking $11 billion in campaign spending, mostly from the rich. Again, this is recent, guys. So you can see here all the way to Trump in 2016, Nixon had spent the most, but you could see Obama had set broken records, and now the 2020 has broken records again. I just wanted to show you just kind of the ups and downs of it. But again, as of recently, in the last 20 years, it's been astronomical. As you can see how much U.S. presidents spent on a campaign through 2019. And I'm just going to zoom in for the most part, and you're going to see Trump only spent this amount of money. You can see total Republican expenditures on the outside, and on the inside is Republicans' biggest spender in terms of that. So you can see how Tom Steyer had the Democrats spend a lot for him because they expected him to do well in 2020. But again, he fell off and Biden became more of it. That was up to 2019. Biden was a late entry, by the way. Hillary, you can look at the money she spent and look at the money he spent in terms of it. She outspent him by a lot, ended up losing the election. You can see Obama spent the most. So in this case, we're talking way more money in 2020, guys, when we look at this. The cost of election from Open Secrets, we're going to use this for the interest groups. You can see projected record numbers, $11 billion. Crazy. That was in 2016. I'm just showing you the different numbers. It's a lot. CEOs of S&P 500 companies spent on the White House race. You could see, again, a lot of them went to, and this is 2020, a lot of them went to Donald Trump because he's the incumbent. So these people want to have that incumbent president, Trump, continue their policies. He lost, Trump, and now Biden, they're going to be like, okay, is Biden going to take away a lot of our corporate tax or increase it? There's concerns mostly on the CEO front for that. So in terms of competing for delegates, we're talking about we're past this. This is not us today. We're right here before they actually vote in the Electoral College. The election is past us. So the goal of the nomination game is to win the majority of delegates that support you at the National Party Convention every 4 years. And that's what this whole process is. So from February to June of this year, state parties choose delegates to the National Convention through caucuses and primaries or primaries. And you can see here, this is the nomination game. You start primary caucuses. You as a voter can vote for the nomination. So you could pick, let's say, the Democrat side, because that was what 2020 was. You can pick Joe Biden. You can pick Pete Buttigieg. You can pick, I'm thinking of the other one. Tom Steyer's another one. I had a huge list of them, but they're all gone now. So they have those people you're voting for in the state of Texas. Each state has its own type of system, whether it's a primary or caucus. And you can see on the right, is it an open or is it a closed primary? Closed primary, you have to be registered with the party. Open primary, you don't have to. You just have to select which side you want to actually use. So in Texas, if you want to vote a Republican primary, you can say, I want to vote the Republican one, but you can't vote in the Democrat one. So just understand that's how it works. Each of them have their own system, about 4,674 Democrats. You need delegates for this, and then 2,400 plus for the Republicans. And then they, at the national convention, they pledge their support towards that candidate. So they pledge their support to Joe Biden, even though Bernie Sanders got some votes. That was the other one I forgot. That was the big one. I'm sorry. Republicans, it all went to pretty much Donald Trump, because you don't really want to throw somebody who's already a president and challenge that. You want to show strength of the party. So that's what happens. So a primary is statewide voting, and a caucus is the local gatherings. And you can see it through this image. I think I have the image on the next one. So in terms of primary caucuses, you could see here primaries on the left where you would vote directly, and the caucuses on the right where you meet in a group setting, where it's kind of like everyone moves towards who they want to vote physically, as opposed, and it's loud. You're talking, you're recruiting. That how ideas kind of going away. We have, what is it, 45 states now have primaries, and only 5 now have caucuses. You can see Biden is ahead after Super Tuesday. Again, it's first past the post in a sense. Who can get to the delegates to win? This is the Democratic nomination for the 2020 presidential election. You can see again here the idea that the Democratic Party reformed itself and the delegate procedure after a highly contentious convention in '68. It wasn't really transparent, so they added more of Democratic ideas, but they added superdelegates that would give the party a little more power than the people who voted for it. The idea of front loading is you're now going to have earlier and earlier primaries. States will move up on the calendar because like a state like California that had it in June notoriously for the last 20, 30 years, they'd always missed. The delegates were already chosen or the presidential candidate was picked. So they missed out. So they're jumping forward in order to have a little more power and have their voters have a little more say in what happens. So they're all moving forward. You're not going to pass Iowa and New Hampshire. It seems like they're the ones who are going to keep on to that lead. So the select delegates will actually go to the national convention, but what they do in the caucuses, they discuss and debate the candidates. They're loud, interactive. They vote by raising hands. They break into secret groups and actually take secret ballots, and then they eventually vote. This is open to all voters registered with a party. Iowa is the first state to go for caucuses. In primaries, it's statewide voting. It's private ballots like a normal election would be. You fill out a ballot, you enter it, and you leave. Okay, it's quiet. You can vote for any candidate regardless of party affiliation. So if you're going to go in for the Republican presidential primary, president-wise, you can vote for Republicans, even if you're a Democrat, and vice versa. So you can vote and to influence another election if you want to nominate that character. There's open, closed, blanket, and mixed. You really need to know open and closed, meaning open is for anybody that can vote. You don't have to be in a party. Closed is only for political party members. New Hampshire's the first primary to go and the second overall. They have a lot of power in their small states too, so keep that in mind. There's criticism of these. We're not going to go into too much depth on this. A disproportionate amount of attention goes to the early ones like New Hampshire and Iowa. Again, it doesn't really represent America, but this is what they're trying to do is create a momentum and a buzz. Usually, I think Biden started winning after South Carolina. I think it was the 4th or 5th primary. You can see again at first he kind of gave up. He was like 4th or 5th in Iowa. So it does matter, but it doesn't matter as well. You want to create a momentum. Running for president is full-time. Ted Cruz announced a year and a half in advance. I'm not going to bet you, but I think Trump is going to announce his presidency for 2024 already after he concedes. So it'll be a 4-year where he's going to have his own rallies. I don't know if it's going to work, but again, I'm sure he's trying to plan that out. Money plays a huge role, too big of a role. Participation is too low in primaries, where it's higher in the presidential one. You can see the percentage averages between presidential primaries and actual general election votes. Mostly of the time, people who vote are better educated and more affluent, richer voters. And again, too much power goes to the media. So new ones, I'm not going to go through this, but you can see that there's also the idea that having a national primary or regional primaries changes to the system. I don't know if it's going to happen. It's like saying the Electoral College is going to go away and the interstate voter compact is going to, replace the Electoral College. I don't know. But again, you can see there's just pros and cons for both of those. Eventually, we're going to send them off at this big convention every 4 years in the summer usually. It's very entertaining for your party. They make it look like there's a hero, and the delegates are usually people who are super involved anyways. So they're, whatever your candidate may be, whether it's Biden or Trump, it is a huge celebration. Now, this year has been different because it was virtual because of the coronavirus. But again, in years past, we already know who the winner is going to be. It's just the delegates have to officially do that. And again, I'm not going to go through a lot of this. So people hold caucuses or primaries. Caucuses decide delegates. Delegates decide the nominees. Nominees become presidents, and presidents make history. I want to change this a little bit because I think because we start this process, we're the ones who make history with that candidate. So just wanted to be a little creative and fun. I don't know which one you guys are there, but whatever. All right, 9.2, the campaign game. The idea that once you're nominated, you now concentrate on campaigning for office. In this case, this is you want to do one of three things. You want to organize your campaign. You want to get a campaign manager. We'll talk about them in a second, but it's campaign organization, money, and media attention. And Trump was a master at those. Even at the fact that he would borrow money because he's in big time debt, he still funded a lot of his own stuff in the process. To succeed, here's what you got to do. You got to get a campaign manager, research staff, pollsters, press secretaries, and even create a website today. Obviously, multiple websites, but this is very big to get the message out there. A lot of donations will happen at these websites as well. In terms of the race to the White House, with that, we're talking about right here now. They've already won the nomination. They're now campaigning here. So a lot of these think that this is monstrous politics. All these groups are leading this hero that is deemed pure and great and a hero to all. And you can see that the monsters are pulling this. So press, agent, advertising, the super PACs, campaign manager, it's all about getting that person out there and having their name resonate with voters across the nation. 9.3 is money in campaigning. Obviously, you need money to build a campaign. I think I love this artwork of the Capitol. It's pretty cool to see that because it looks like real money, but I don't know if it is or not, but it'd be worth a lot of money. The common perception is that, and this could be a misperception, is that money buys votes and influence, and not always the case that it does that. So please get that basic understanding. But look, in 2012, Obama received $307 million, Romney and Ron Paul. Those are the top three ones there. Please understand that they're not directly getting that. Sometimes it's for or against them. As you guys can see, money could be for them or against them in order to cause problems. And you can actually see who actually donated what. So it feels like the presidency is for sale in a sense because they're getting large donors, whether it's Google who's giving to Obama and Ron Paul, or our branches of government which are donating money as well, or a Ivy League institution giving only to Obama and not to everybody. It's interesting just to break down how we look at that. So the FEC Campaign Act, the Federal Election Campaign Act, in 1974 created this bipartisan committee to look at campaign finance laws and enforce compliance. And the big thing is limiting the contribution, especially from the political action committees. So the FEC is a big player in elections. I don't want you to memorize this. I just wanted to give you an overview of it. Problems with the FEC, you can see here, the hard money that's given directly to a candidate is regulated. But again, soft money, the super PAC money, is not necessarily given. It's unregulated, and it can be unlimited, where these have limits. Again, it's very difficult to take care of this or to regulate this. And I'm just going through some of the stuff. 527 groups are the super PACs that really are not regulated. The Swift Boat ones against John Kerry in 2004 were a big deal. But again, they cannot, super PACs and 527 groups cannot directly work with a candidate nor coordinate with a candidate or give money directly to a candidate. So they can still do things to help support that candidate or go against another candidate. And you can see where 527 groups, super PACs, exist. They're bigger than the regular political action committees. In 1974, any interest group can form its own PAC as a result of the FEC Act. And you can see they can give money directly. So $5,000 per candidate. This is a little chart. You can see it's just limited. You don't have to ever know the number, they'll give you the number, but you have to know that it's limited in a political action committee. Whereas obviously there could be, soft money, fear that money leads to too much influence over the winner. They have to now comply with what the money is given to them. You can see the contributors in 2010. Business PACs gave most of their money to incumbents because they want to have that incumbent continue the policies towards whatever business they're involved in, whatever interest they're involved in there. And then super PACs are the ones that since 2010 have risen up, and they are considered corporations are considered people. People have free speech, so therefore corporations have free speech. You can donate unlimited amounts of money. That is Citizens United versus the FEC, and you could see Jeb Bush had the most money by a super PAC raised in that 2016, and again, it didn't matter. Trump bullied him off the stage, but super PACs are huge. They're also known as independent expenditure only committees. They cannot make contributions directly to the candidate, but there's no legal size on their donation, and they don't have to reveal, in a sense, who they are. You could see total super PAC spending. This is in 2012, if I'm mistaken. 2012 election. You can see how much it was compared to a GDP of Micronesia, a small country. So it's, again, a lot. I don't know what this approximation over here is, but again, you're just seeing the breakdown of super PAC spending. So let me give you the campaign finance simplified again. This is you, the private citizen, will know you was big techs. You're going to try to donate to, this is Mayor Quimby in The Simpsons. So you can give directly, but you're limited. You can give to a PAC, but you're limited. Those two can contribute, and they have to be reported to the FEC. They regulate this to the mayor. Well, you can give as much money as you want to the 527 group or the super PAC. There are no limits, but they cannot coordinate or contribute to, and the FEC does not regulate that. So they just make sure it just doesn't happen here. That's it. So does money buy victory? Well, ask Jeb Bush. It doesn't. Ask Hillary Clinton. She had way more than money than Donald Trump in 2016, and it didn't. So media coverage is huge. Look at the minutes devoted to Trump controversies versus Hillary. Look at the battleground state spending ads. You can see it's big deal. Candidate ads, in a sense, teach more than the media coverage. The media really focuses on the horse race, on who's leading, who's winning, who's better, who's not, instead of giving us the policies that we really need. And you can just see more spending. It seems exponential at this point, but again, we're breaking records every year. It's about negative attention, especially in the 2016 one, even to this new one. Trump had just changed the idea of the presidency, but you can see the negativity given. Look at how much for Clinton as well. So not much positive, a lot of negative, and that seems like how we're getting our news about them. We're hating them instead. The impact of campaigns. So political scientists have created that there's three effects that it has on us. Number one is reinforcement. If I'm a Donald Trump fan, I listen to him speak. Yes, that's what I believe, and I'm going to go with it. Boom. Okay. It's activation. Well, Joe Biden comes out and says, if you want to stop Donald Trump and his breaking the rule of law and not being, bullying the other side, then I need a donation from you. I need help. That's activating you, inspiring you to give money to help out the cause to defeat Donald Trump. And they both do this. All sides do this. They raise lots of money, guys. The Georgia special Senate election in 2021 in January for both seats will determine how the Senate lies. Is it going to be 50-50, 51-49, or 52-48? We will see what happens with that. But they're getting contributions like that, crazy. That is what activation is. And last one is conversion. This is very rare that a Trump is going to convert a Democrat who doesn't like him to the other side, or Biden's going to convert a Republican to his side. Who are they really converting? It's the independents that haven't made up their mind yet. And it depends. It looked like it was split this one, even though Biden won by 6-7 million votes. Trump won like 71, 72 million votes. That's a lot. That's the most for a loser in an election. And that's more a mandate saying, I don't need to go away. People like me. And could be a concern for Democrats in the next 4 years. Factors that weaken it, perception. If I believe that I'm paying attention to all the negative things on Trump, I'm only going to be looking at selective perception. It's like selective listening. You're only going to hear or see what you want to see, guys. Most of the time you agree. It's already things you agree with. Identification still influences your voting behavior. Even if you're not truly a Trump fan, You're conservative, you're going to stick with the Republican Party. Boom, you're going to vote Republicans, even if Trump is the leader and you don't like what he's done. And then 3, incumbents usually have a huge advantage. They actually get money, but name recognition. That's why it's very rare for an incumbent president to lose like Donald Trump did. Again, Biden is the president-elect at this point. Trump can run again in 2024, but he's going to be really old again. It seems like we always have older presidents at this point. In terms of how we vote, remember, elections legitimize the actions of our leaders that have been elected. If we do not recognize our leaders, which is what Trump and some Republicans are doing, by not conceding and fighting in places that there's no voter fraud, even though they're claiming massive voter fraud, you delegitimize democracy. And that is a danger zone that we're going to go through. But again, I can't tell you what's going to happen. I can only tell you these are the concerns right now for our country. If we delegitimize it, because Trump did it in 2016, he said it's rigged. It's going to, and he ended up winning. And then he's like, he doesn't say anything about it. It's only a complaint if he loses. And that's what he set up his followers for. So we'll see what that happens going forward. American voters rarely question the fairness, but it seems like we're questioning at least the Republicans because they lost. And Hillary followers complained because they got more votes last time, but Hillary conceded the next night. So it wasn't, we're at like 2 or 3 weeks, they still haven't conceded at this point, the Trump administration. And you could see back in 2015, 2016, look, he said it's absolutely being rigged. And again, this is Trump. This is what he does. And if he doesn't get his way, complains about it. And that's what his medium he uses as a president, which is, I know Obama tweeted, but nothing close to what Trump has done. There are 3 types of election: primary to select the nominee, general elections to actually vote on them, and then elections over policies like propositions that people can vote on. And universally, we accept them as being fair because that creates the legitimacy of an election in our democracy. Again, but now it's being questioned for the first time in a long time. Any legislation passed by the people, because a nationwide vote does not exist. It's a state vote. There are 2 ways to get it on the ballot. It's called a referendum or initiative petition. With the referendum, legislators of that state bring up this idea for you to vote on, and you get to approve or disapprove in the process, like a proposition. So this is where you vote on policy yourself. In an initiative petition, the people, it starts with us, not the legislators. We gain enough votes. If it gets 10% on each time, it can continue to change the state constitution. Not all states now allow initiative, and marijuana was initially created by this petition, by this grassroots movement, in Colorado being the first state to legalize. And you need 10% of the previous election votes in order to stay on the ballot each time. And now I think a third of our states are now have some form of legalization of marijuana. And you can see there, Montana recreation, Arizona recreation, both are red states, guys. South Dakota, it could be medicinal and recreation. Mississippi, only medicinal. And New Jersey, again, you're seeing the population and again, what they can make in millions of dollars. It's a lot of money, guys. All right, I'm going to give you 3 examples from 3 elections, 1800, 2000, and 2016. Obviously, they're totally different. The first, transition of power, because George Washington was elected, and he ran for, nobody went against him. He was president for 2 terms, and then he stepped down, and now we have our first election. So this was our first peaceful transfer of power. So this was barely an election because it didn't have any primaries, didn't have any nominating conventions, it didn't have any speeches. Actually, the campaigning was done by groups, state and local parties. They're the ones who campaigned for that leader. The leader didn't do anything. Obviously, communication was terrible compared to what we have today. But again, this is how they did it. But there were a bunch of scandals because the integrity of the newspapers, there were no laws against this lying in a sense, or yellow journalism in a sense. Partisan newspapers can just destroy the other opponent. Here are the accusations against Jefferson, Bible burning atheist, father of mulatto children, the mad scientist. And here are the accusations against Adams. He's a monarchist and a vicious tyrant. But you're seeing, this is like a commercial back then, even though it was the newspapers that were doing it. So there were scandals about this. No one talked about them being slave owners because it was more accepted back in the early 1800s. And in an election, Jefferson won by a slim margin at 73-65. And this was our first peaceful transfer of power between parties. So that was the positive. That's why I wanted to go over it. In 2000, again, I'm trying to give modern stuff at this point. It was an absolute mess.
because it was only decided by 537 votes from the state of Florida. And once the state of Florida, because it was recounted and recounted, it took about a month for them to decide at that point who was our president. And you could see Florida at the top here. You could see Bush, Gore, and then other would be Nader. It doesn't really look like Nader much, but Nader did influence enough, 2% of the vote, and he was a liberal, so he took votes away from Gore and possibly took away the election itself. So the recount was called. Bush won by 537 votes. There's the popular vote. So Gore had the most votes. Gore didn't concede until December 13th. And at that point, the legal battle went to the courts for the first time. And they said, because of the 14th Amendment's Equal Protection Clause, recounting doesn't treat every vote equally. So they said the recount was unconstitutional, and they gave the presidency to Bush. A conservative Supreme Court gave the presidency. No surprise there, but it's the first time they'd done that. And then you could see why did Gore lose? This is a guy checking the ballot, the butterfly ballot. He won 2% of the popular vote. He received 97,000 votes, and you can see the difference and the issue with the Chad ballots. You didn't punch your hole all the way, so therefore it didn't count. Most of the counties that would vote for Gore used this one, and that was the big issue in this election. So you could see he won the popular vote, and then stickers came out that Bush cheated. He's not America's president, even though he lost the popular vote, but won the Electoral College, guys. So it's a big one. All right, the most recent one was 2016. This is where it was very negative. Each side hated the other side. I thought it was funny to see an image of them kind of being nice to each other. But Trump was the winner in the 2016 election, which says percentage of voters who gave the winning candidates a grade of an A or B for the way they conducted themselves over the course of the campaign. So Trump got a 30, which is the lowest ever. I'm sure Hillary got low as well, but he's the winner in that one. But this was one where we had negative choices, and you can see based on the electoral map, Trump, if you know what happened recently, Trump took all of these from Obama, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, and that is why he won this. And that's what Biden took back just recently. And you can see that the voters and the percentages of who voted for who. This is for Trump. At the bottom, it says percent voting for Trump. So this is how he won. Okay. All right. I will see you guys on the next one. We'll finish out chapter 9. Okay. You guys take care. I'll see you later.